Good to be in the house of the Lord, amen. Good to have everybody. We are going to be in Matthew. We'll start out with Matthew 7, 24 through 27. Matthew 7, 24 through 27. You've probably heard this scripture a few times. People in church very much. Matthew 7, 27 says, "Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on a rock. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house. Yet it did not fall because it had its foundation on the rock. But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who built his house on sand. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house, and it fell with a great crash." Here we see in this scripture that it's talking about obviously what your foundation is in your life, where you are at. That's in Matthew. Now we move to Luke. And why don't we stand for Luke if we did for Matthew? Kind of feel bad for Matthew, but hey, we'll stand for Luke. Luke 6, 46 through 48 says this: "Why do you call me Lord, Lord, and do not do what I say? I will show you what he is like who comes to me and hears my words and puts them into practice. He is like a man building a house who dug down deep and laid the foundation on rock. When a flood came, the torrent struck that house, but it could not shake it, because it was well built. But the ones who hear my words and do not put them into practice is like a man who built a house on the ground without a foundation. The moment the torrent struck the house, it collapsed, and its destruction was complete." Let's go to the Lord in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we just come to you today so thankful for who you are and what you do daily in our lives, every moment of our lives. We ask right now that you just bless this service, minister to us today, open our hearts to receive your word, Lord. Lots of things going on, lots of plans, lots of responsibilities, but right now our only responsibility is just to listen to you. And right now we ask that you just bless this place. In your name we pray. Amen and amen. All right, so today we read these scriptures, and these scriptures are, it's Jesus teaching, and he's talking about where do we lay our hope, where do we build our lives spiritually, right? That's what he's talking about here. And we see that these scriptures really come to life in one man, okay? In one man, and his name is Paul. At the time we're going to be reading, just for clarity's sake, it's going to say in your scriptures where we're at, Saul, but we know that Saul later becomes Paul. So just for clarity, I'm going to call him Paul, but no, in your scripture it's going to call him Saul here. So turn with me, let's do a little prequel. Turn with me to Acts 7, 59. It's right after 58, right before 60. And this is actually a sad moment. Here we're talking about Stephen. A lot of us know the story of Stephen. Stephen was a disciple of Christ, and he was martyred for his belief. He was stoned. And it says here in Acts 7:59, I'm going to read through Acts 8:1. It says, "While they were stoning him, Stephen prayed, 'Lord Jesus, receive my spirit.' Then he fell on his knees and cried out, 'Lord, do not hold this sin against me.' When he had said this, or against them, when he had said this, he fell asleep." Now 8:1, this is kind of the prequel I wanted to read you here. "And Saul was there, giving approval to his death." So here we see Saul, later becomes Paul, but we see Saul is here, and it says that they went to him and he gave approval to the death. So we see that Saul was a man at this time who is a persecutor of Christians, right? Saul at this time is a man who is against what these people believe, and that is Jesus. So here we go. Now let's go to Acts 9, 1 through 9. We're going to read and then we're going to get rolling here. All right, same Saul. Remember, God he gave approval to Stephen's death. They stoned him pretty much for no reason other than what they did not like what he had to say. Now Acts 9. Verse 1 says, "Meanwhile Saul was still breathing out murderous threats against the Lord's disciples. He went to the high priest and asked him for letters to the synagogues in Damascus, so that if he found any any there who belonged to the way, whether men or women, he might take them as prisoners to Jerusalem. As he neared Damascus on his journey, suddenly a light from heaven flashed around him. He fell to the ground and heard a voice say to him, Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me? Who are you, Lord? Saul asked. I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting, he replied. Now get up and go into the city, and you will be told what you must do. The men traveled with Saul, stood there speechless. They heard the sound, but did not see anyone. Saul got up from the ground, but when he opened his eyes, he could see nothing. So they led him by the hand into Damascus. For 3 days he was blind and did not eat or drink anything. Okay, we're about to see something in Saul. We're about to see here that he is going from a sandy place to a place that's on a rock, isn't it? That's where he's going. Now, remember in Matthew it said that the man, he built his house on a rock, but in Luke it says that he dug deep, down into the bedrock, it says he dug deep into there. And what I believe is happening right here in 3 days with blind Saul is Christ, through Saul, is digging. He's digging. Who knows, in our lives sometimes we have to dig things out of the way. Right? Everybody, I'm sure, can shake their head and say, I had done that time to time, whatever it may be. You had to go and you had to get rid of some stuff, had to move some stuff, whatever that may be in your life. But from time to time we have to do this. And this is no different for Saul at this time. So what did Saul have to move? What did he have to dig out so that he could get to that rock, so that he could firmly attach himself to the unshakable bedrock that is Jesus? I believe the first thing is this. Saul had to get rid of tradition. Saul was a Pharisee. He was born to Jewish parents with Roman citizenship, which is like a big deal. Rare deal. So he was born into some tradition. He was born somebody socially, right? Economically. Even as far as the church was, he was somebody. And Saul, at that time, had lived in that place. He had lived up to that, who he was. He was a big dog. He was somebody. People knew who Saul was around Jerusalem. People knew who Saul was. Oh, he's somebody. And he had lived in that. But can I tell you that Jesus didn't need somebody. He didn't need somebody that men looked at and said, oh, that's somebody. Jesus needed somebody that could lean on him. That could grab onto the rock. He needed somebody that could dig away at tradition. Here's the deal with tradition. It's like sand. We talked about we got sand, we got the rock. Tradition is a lot like sand. It changes all the time. Do you do the same thing today you did 20 years ago? No. Right? We all have different traditions. Things change. We have a tradition. I remember whenever I was a small child, every Sunday after church, we went to my grandma's house. She cooked, and they all got together today. There came a time my grandma got too old to do that, too feeble. We didn't do it anymore. Tradition changed. I remember there was a time when at Christmas we all went to my parents' house. Every morning, I lived there obviously, so that's where I went. And we got up every morning and we gathered around the tree and they passed out presents. We opened them. It was a great time. But now I have my own family and traditions change. Right? Traditions are always changing. If you grab onto something and put your whole life into something that's going to be changing, what's going to happen in your life is always going to be scattered around. If you hold on to something and think this is never going to change, and then it does, you're lost. You're confused. You don't know what's going on. And see, right here, Christ is saying you need to dig away, Saul, at tradition. Which is real easy, a lot easier said than done. Remember, this guy was steeped in tradition. But he had to move that away. Let's look what else. Second thing that had to be dug away was Saul had to dig away at the law. See, Saul studied Hebrew scriptures in Jerusalem under Rabbi, and I'm going to try to say this name right, Gamaliel, where he studied the law. This Rabbi Gamaliel was a big deal. He was a big deal in the temple. He was a guy, he was your main man on the law. And Saul studied directly. Saul knew what the law was all about. He knew it. Backwards, frontwards, and sideways, he knew all about it. He could quote every bit of it. That's why when Saul is stricken, and Jesus says, Saul, Saul, Saul knew that was the Lord. He didn't know who the Lord was, but he knew that was the Lord because in Old Testament times, that's how God talked to people. You can go all through Scripture. I got it wrote down somewhere where he said Moses, Moses, and David, David, and Abraham, Abraham. And he would go through. So Saul recognized that from the law, from the Old Testament, and said, I know that's the Lord. But here's the deal with the law. The law knows there's a Lord. It just don't know who the Lord is. That's Jesus. And he said, who are you? He said, I'm Jesus. But he had to get rid of that stuff. Paul ends up being a great man of grace. Are y'all with me this morning? He becomes a writer of grace. But before he could become that, he had to remove. He had to dig out. He had to get to the bedrock of grace. He had to take out law. He had to get rid of that mindset, that way of thinking, that way of walking. He had to get rid of that way of seeing. He had to get rid of it. What is the law? The law is also like sand. It is temporary. Law will take care of you for a little bit. Until you messed up again. Then you had to do something, you had to go back to work. You ever built a sand castle at the ocean? I bet it's still there, don't you? Just like you built it. No, it's not, because sand is temporary. It's moving all the time. You build one thing, a wave comes through, and it's gone. Some old goofy guy walks right in the middle of it, it's gone. I used to love to go to the creek, and there was a place in Melbourne, and oh man, that's all we did. Me and my brother, we spent, all summer. My folks figured out that was free entertainment. They were like, oh yeah, let's do that. And we would go and we'd play in the sand for hours, and we would come back the next day, and it wouldn't look nothing like we left it. I built a city here. Because sand is always, it's temporary. It's always moving. And that's what the law is. It's temporary. Christ's perfect plan for your life, listen to me, is not for you to live temporary. It's not for your blessings to be temporary. It's not for the fruits of the Spirit. We've talked about them a while back with Christian. Those are eternal fruits. You realize that, right? Hope, joy, long-suffering, peace, all those things, they're eternal. But so many times we carry them around like they're temporary. Happiness is temporary. You're not always happy. Right? There's some days you ain't happy. But you should always have joy. Right? Jesus says grab onto the rock that is eternal things. The non-moving thing. You put a rock by the creek and you come back tomorrow, unless somebody's picked it up, it's still going to be there. Right? People say, well, my, the rock, the water, dwindles it down to nothing. No, it's still going to be there just like it is. Because it's solid. It's there. And that's what Saul was needing. He was not needing things that were always moving, always changing, temporary. For him to be who God was planning on him to be, he had to have something solid. He had to dig out the law. The next thing is this. Saul had to dig out prejudice. Jewish purists rejected Samaritans. When you went to the temple, you didn't just roll on in and say, where's my seat at? Well, I think I'm going to go a little deep inside. You had to earn your way. And it wasn't by your works, it was by who you were. Your ethnicity, what country you're from, what family you're from, what tribe you're from. And that earns you in. Who knows that God's call for Paul was to be a minister of people, not of just a country. It was to be of people. So to do that, Saul, had to dig out prejudice. He had to lay that stuff. He really had to, because you know what? He's blind right now at this point where we're reading. And for him to see, he had to really lay down some prejudice, because he was going to be going to Ananias to be. That's how he was able to see again. Was Christ sent him to Ananias, and Ananias, a non-Jew, a man that was not of Judaism. He was a disciple of Christ. he was going to go to Paul and lay his hands on him, and that's how Paul was going to see again. Saul was going to see again. So Saul had to lay down prejudice. Can I tell you today in the church, prejudice exists. We as people, it's just nature, like to be around people like us. Do we not? Do we ever wake up and say, I think I'm going to hang out with somebody completely different than me? No. Our friends don't tend to be people completely different than us. Polar opposites, do they? They tend to be people like us. So naturally, we have a little bit of that in us. Can I tell you what I believe prejudice comes from? I believe it comes from a lack of communication oftentimes. I believe in the church. Now, what I'm talking about here in prejudice isn't, that word prejudice has been taken to mean racist, and it can be those things. But prejudice can just be, I don't like so-and-so because they think differently than me. You don't have to be an outward difference in look or anything like that. I don't really want to hang out with them because they like this, and I don't. And oftentimes that comes from a lack of communication. Let me tell you about a country. I learned about this at work. I thought it was pretty cool, and the Lord's kind of really shown me some things in this. There's Papua New Guinea, all right? It's a country it's an island country, about the size of a couple of Midwestern states. It's not very big. But in this country, there is 8 different dialects of language. 8 different languages. In this country, the size of about 2 or 3 small states in America. All right? So you have a few people in a lot of different languages. Well, in this, people talk about, people in social studies and history and whatnot. This country's been in war forever. And they say it's because of the language barrier. Because people, number one, when they can't speak the same language, they don't understand each other. And then when they don't understand each other, they become confused. And no one likes being confused. Confusion is uncertainty, so they become scared. And then when they become scared of them, it becomes a prejudice, right? You don't really know. I don't know what they're about. I'm scared. And then the prejudice becomes it separates people. And then separation becomes conflict. So they're talking about this country, and they said the problem with this country is the language barrier. Can I tell you today, and I believe this is from God, and this might be a little off subject, but I believe it's true today. I believe that we need to repeat this. A lot of problems in our churches and in Christianity in a whole is a language barrier. We're not all speaking the kingdom language. We have different dialects and different opinions in it. We begin to add tradition. We begin to add different things in how we talk. And sure enough, before long, you have churches that don't like each other because they don't understand each other. You have people that don't really like each other because they don't understand each other. And before long, separation begins and conflict begins. Are you with me? Let's make sure we're all speaking Jesus language. Amen. Let's make sure we're all speaking kingdom words. Let's make sure that we're not making up our own thing that because we like us. Let's make sure that we're speaking pure. And that's what God is telling Paul or Saul here. And we're going to see in a minute, he's going to speak some kingdom words here in a little bit after he's really got into the rock here. But I believe that's so true. He had to dig out prejudice. He had to understand that God loved people, not just like Saul, but everybody. It all started with communication. And the fourth thing, fly through this. And I didn't hit on this, but I will. Prejudice, like I said, is separate. Sand is separate. Go up, try to pick up a big clump of sand and see what it does. It's going to run all through your fingers because it separates. You can't build a house on sand because what happens is those granules will separate. They will move. And finally this, Saul had to lay down and dig up guilt. Would you not feel horrible? I mean, we read what he did with Stephen, and now he's in a place where he realizes Stephen was right. So what would be the next thing that could easily have happened to Saul? He could have become guilty. I can't believe what I've done. I can't believe what's happened. I can't believe it. And he could have begun to Saul and just go into his shell and feel sorry for himself, get mad at himself. He could have carried all these things around. But Jesus Jesus didn't call him to go around and feel bad. He called him to go around and make other people feel good. He had to dig away that guilt. Had to dig away those things. Jesus. Like I said, Saul was the leader of the church's first widespread persecution. He started that whole deal. And now he had to lay that down, move that out of the way, and say, now I'm going to be for the kingdom, not against it. And I can't let my past keep me from doing that. Glory to God. 2 Corinthians 12, 9 through 10. I got it here somewhere. I think it's in my Bible. This is Paul talking now. Tell me this ain't a kingdom language right here. Like I said, a while ago when I was talking about it, I said one of the biggest problems with the church, one of the biggest struggles that's happened within the church, the reason we've got a whole bunch of different denominations, we have a whole lot of people that don't like being around the other one, is because of the lack of communication. I don't really understand their way of thinking. I don't really understand what they do, so I don't want to be around them, and I don't like them. Right? Everybody quiet today. I think that's accurate, don't you? A lot of times, this means yes. I think a lot of times when we don't understand people, we find it better just to stay away from them, right? That's humanity. That's who we are. So we think that's the better way, is just to stay away, and before long, there ends up being, hard feelings and stuff like that. So Christ is saying, Saul, that's who you were, but that ain't what I need. I need you to be somebody that can go in and preach to everyone that I love, which is everyone. Right? To minister to, it talks about minister to Jerusalem, to Samaria, and to the world. That's what I need you to do. So here now, Saul has dug away all those things in that time. That's what I believe that 3 days were. I believe that 3 days wasn't just Saul going from point A to point B blind. Who knows, Christ don't do things just for no reason. That wasn't punishment. I don't believe that. I don't believe that was Jesus saying, here's for what you did to Stephen, now go to Ananias. No, that was time for Saul to grow. Who knows, a lot of times in our tough times, it's a time to grow. So here he's going, and he's growing, and I believe he's recognizing, hey, tradition isn't going to get me there. Law isn't going to get me there. This is what they've been talking about. He isn't deaf. He heard what Stephen had to say. He's beginning, all of this is beginning to mature in him and grow in him. He's recognizing that, it may not be just me and my few, no more. Just me and my little group. Maybe there's more to this. He's recognizing all these things as he's walking 3 days. Who knows 3 days represents completeness? Jonah went into the well. 3 days later he comes out of it completely different. Saul, goes blind, a Pharisee, a persecutor of Christians. 3 days later, completely different. He's full of the Holy Spirit. Completely different 3 days. Christ goes into a tomb. 3 days later, the world is completely different. Amen. 3 represents completeness. So here you got 3 days. Saul is roaming. He's wandering here. He's going. And he's beginning, all this stuff is beginning to get dug up. I'm from the hills. Dug up, and he's seeing that bedrock. He's seeing where he needs to be attached to. He's seeing the real deal now. He's beginning to grab a hold of that. And then he speaks kingdom language right here. Who knows when Jesus speaks, there's not a million different dialects. There's just one true thing there. That's what I grabbed on me when he talked about that beginning. It's really the same language, but there's so many different dialects that people have trouble understanding each other. And that can kind of become what religion is. Are you with me? It can be people that have taken what God is, and they kind of put their little spin on it a little bit. We put our traditions into it. We put our opinions into it. And it's created a different dialect. And then that's where you get all the confusion. And you get all the struggles. And you get all the problems. When Christ says, my plan isn't got a dialect. It's just true blue with the word. Amen. It's the deal. So here now we see that Christ is about to speak through Paul. He's Paul now. And this is just true blue. Take it like his word right here. 12:9 through 10. All right? He says, "But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore I will boast all the more gladly about my weakness, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong." That's the word. Are you with me? That is the word. That's just straight. There ain't no dialect about that. That is, my grace is sufficient. My grace is true. Stuff's going to happen. You remember Saul was the one that was doing the persecuting, and now he says, "Hey, I take persecution. I grab a hold of it because in my weakness He is strong." He finally found the bedrock. Are you with me?
Amen.
The movable stuff, the temporary stuff, the weak stuff, that's all sand. That's all spiritual sand. He found the rock.
Amen.
He grabbed onto the rock. Can I tell you today, this is if you say, Kendall, what's this deal about? What are you saying here? If you don't get anything else out of it, get this. Speak Jesus to people. Speak life to people. Speak hope to people. Speak truth to people. There's no dialect in that. They can't take that and spin it around. See, communication has a lot of different things in it. To be able to properly communicate, number one, you've got to be around. You ever got in halfway into a conversation and completely misunderstood it because you got in a little late? If you want to know what's going on, if you want to hear God's conversation to you, you've got to be around to listen to it. You've got to be around it. If you misunderstand what God's got planned for you, it's not God's fault. He speaks clearly. It's because we oftentimes get so caught up in other things that we don't hear it properly. Happens all the time. We've got to be there. We've got to be listening. And then we've got to be willing. We've got to be present. Then we've got to be willing to listen. Right? And then we've got to be willing to speak. That's communication. That's what God called of Paul. He said, "Hey, if you'll dig down to this bedrock, I'm going to teach you some things. If you'll get a hold of me, I'm going to teach you some things." And that is what Saul did, become Paul. He was a man that was always present. This guy seen heaven. I don't know if anybody remembers that. Paul seen heaven. That's what he's talking about in this scripture right before him. He talks about being taken up into the third heaven. He's seen heaven. And because of that, he was present to listen. And then he was able to come back and speak to each one of us today. Still speaking to us today. The Lord is still using Paul today to speak to us. All because he found the bedrock. He dug all that other junk that didn't matter out of the way. That's all I'm saying.